There is blind justice, and then there is trading justice, so that you can finally afford to get that laser eye surgery. Not only will people find you more attractive once you ditch those old glasses, you'll be able to see your charts better. That's what we call win-win. Speaking of winning, it's time for a little trading justice, brought to you by TackleTrading.com.
Welcome out to the Trading Justice podcast presented by Tackle Trading. My name is Matt Justice, along with my co-host Tim Justice. But Tim, before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty detail of today's journey in terms of our discussion here, I want to say thank you for all the podcast listeners out there. Are we on? 62 now, I believe, podcast 62. It's been an amazing journey for 62 podcasts out there. We're getting a lot of great feedback from the listeners, and we're just going to grow and grow and grow this. If you guys have any discussions you want to have on the podcast in the future, let us know over there at TackleTrading.com. And also, if you enjoy the podcast, take 2 minutes out of your busy day. Just 2 minutes, log into iTunes, subscribe to the podcast, number one, and leave us an amazing review. That'll help us build that out there and push it out there. And guys, we are just so eternally thankful for the listeners of this show. It's something that Tim and I have wanted to do for a very long time, and we can't wait to see the next evolution of the Trading Justice podcast, the best damn podcast in the financial business. I take it back, in the world. There you go. Tim, how are you today?
You know, I'm doing great. I was actually just thinking, I hope we're getting better and not worse.
I don't know.
It would be.
I don't know. Actually, I have listened to a few of the podcasts in the past. I've listened to every podcast we've done. But I've went back and listened to a couple of the other ones, and I think we're getting infinitely worse. I think we're really good at first. We're not very good now, but that's not going to stop us, right? I mean, no.
No, we'll just
that's
be
our
mediocre,
level.
and we'll just keep
mediocre.
along through life.
I'll tell you right now. Not only have the podcasts been getting better, I mean, the guests are awesome, and I mean, we just got some, and it's getting out there, Tim. We got some amazing institutional level type traders coming on to the podcast. I had a radio station producer talk to me about getting us on, getting the Trading Justice podcast on the radio for a monthly edition. It's just been amazing growth. And you know what? It all started with you and me getting on a mic one day last year and saying, hey, listen, you want to do a podcast? And it was, and then we had like Kleiny come on from an economics perspective, Andrew come on from a Forex high frequency trading perspective. I remember listening to a podcast with Kurt Warner and Jeff Christo, who are part of the Rich Dad Education Group. And that was early on. And the quality was not that good. The content was. The conversations were awesome. But no, I rambling, yes, but I do believe we are getting better. And I'm not kidding. This thing will be the greatest podcast of the modern era since at least 1985. And yes, they had podcasts back then.
That's a big statement. And first of all, better or worse, the rambling will remain. I think it was Kenny Rogers. I was born a rambling man, right? For sure. Hey,
first
Matt,
Kenny Rogers drop. Hold on, that was the first Kenny Rogers drop on the podcast.
Is it possible? I think I have to have mentioned it before. I actually own 3 vinyl records of Kenny Rogers, so I'm sure I mentioned it.
Phil the producer doesn't even know who Kenny Rogers is.
There you go.
Does it look? It feels like going, what in the world are these two talking about?
That's okay. We confuse Phil half the time. Maybe Phil will be our punching bag. We'll make fun of Phil.
Well,
Phil, you okay with that?
Well, we should, because he can't talk. His mic doesn't work when he's doing the recording, which allows us the perfect opportunity to say whatever we want about Phil without him defending himself. But before we do that, Phil taking over the producing duties for the podcast. I mean, everybody, you should thank Phil for that. This thing's going to be really kind of skyrocket now because of him. So we're very appreciative of Phil, even if we will make fun of him on a, every now and then type perspective. All right, Tim, we got a special guest you were going to introduce before I, kind of rudely interrupted you. Go ahead.
I will tell you this, though, listening to you talk about our podcast, because I think that the quality is getting better, the mics are getting better, the connections are getting better, our interviewing is getting better. I mean, it's just the kind of thing in life. Just before we got on here, I was teaching a group of beginners. I've got mentor students in town this week, Matt, and they were around me while I was doing a presentation. I was talking to people from London and South Africa and Germany, and I think some from New York as well as Toronto, kind of time zones. And it's what I told them. You just have to start. You don't have to have everything figured out, just like we didn't with our podcast, and we still don't. You just have to start. You get better the next day. You have to start. You have to try to make improvements. You identify where there are challenges. You make improvements. It's part of life. It's part of anything you do in life. If you wait until you've got it all figured out before you are willing to take action, you're not going to get there when you need to get there. If you want to get to your goals and achieve them and reach them in the quickest order and the most successful way, you got to be willing to jump in there and take a step forward. Now, we do have a special guest here today, and I'm excited about this conversation.
Absolutely.
Jeffrey Ludwig is a student who has been a part of the Trading Justice forums and groups for a very, very long time. And I keep a close eye on those groups and forums, and one of the reasons why we decided to start everything we're doing at tackletrading.com with our Google group and our podcast and the coaches shows, which we're going to have here in a few hours as well, is because of people like Jeffrey. Because I saw students that just were willing and able and eager to talk to each other and help each other, and they have a desire to be a part of a community. And, whether it's a simple question from a beginner, I always saw Jeff pop in there with a great answer. Or a very advanced, complex political question about where the world's going, Jeff would pop in with a thoughtful answer. And Jeffrey, you've been around us for a long time, but I don't know if I've ever even spoken to you until just today. Welcome to our podcast, and say hello to everybody.
Well, thanks, Tim. Hello, everybody. And I'm super excited to be here. And yes, you are correct. This is actually the first chance we've had to talk, so I'm very excited for this as well.
That's amazing to me, because I have been a part seeing hundreds of emails from Jeffrey. and hundreds. And Tim's absolutely dead right. Jeffrey always takes, and just coming back, Tim and I created the Trading Justice community back in 2011. And Tim, do you know the name of our first student who joined that Google group?
Ooh, is it Jeffrey Ludwig?
No, it is not.
That would be cool.
Although I do believe Jeffrey was early on. Was early on. How long have you been a member of that Google group, Jeffrey?
About 3 years.
Yeah, it was early on. It was the first year we started it, I think. Her name was Aaliyah. Aaliyah was the first member. Taught her in Master Trader, had her in my trading lab that we do over there at Rich Dad Education, and she was the first member of the group. It's just grown and grown, and the group got so big that we couldn't communicate properly the way we wanted to, and so that's when we basically formed Tackle Trading. And Jeffrey, you probably don't know this, that's when we formed Tackle Trading to really become the next evolution of the Trading Justice brand we were dealing with at the time. Although we would not give up the Trading Justice podcast name, because let's face it, that's just as awesome. Yeah, exactly. You can't give up Trading Justice. No, it's Jeffrey. I've known Jeffrey for about 3 years now. Lots of communications. First time hearing. He's got a radio voice, though, don't you think, Tim? A deep radio voice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He sounds like a respected man that he could be holding a Scotch glass and a cigar.
Yes,
a good book on his bookcase. Yeah.
I think we're going to have him sing some Barry White later.
Oh boy, might be after I break out the Scotch, but
after a couple of little Scotch that Tim was talking about. Yeah, no doubt. Hey, Jeffrey, real quick, one of the things that we have noticed that people really enjoy on the podcast is listening to people's journeys. There's a lot of people that listen to the podcast that are either very, very new to trading, don't know what trading is and whatnot. So I really kind of wanted to talk to you about your journey, number one, your journey as your evolution of a trader, number two, and maybe people can pick up a couple concepts along the way. So when you joined the Rich Dad Education Group back in 2011, you had mentoring, 4 classes, you've done trading labs. But before you got into trading, what was your experience coming into that workshop? How much experience did you have as a trader?
I had actually been trading options a little bit before that. So it was, I want to say, about 2 years before I went into the Stock Success workshop that I first found the Rich Dad, books and podcasts, the whole brand, and before that I really had, zero financial education or, investment experience or anything. So the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book was for me, as I'm sure it has been for many people, just kind of this eye-opening introduction to this whole world that I never knew existed, or certainly that I never imagined I could be a part of. And so at first I was very excited about about taking control of my financial future and whatnot, and I was reading all the books I could get my hands on and listening to the Rich Dad podcasts. But at that time, a lot of what the books and podcasts were talking about was real estate investment or entrepreneurship, starting a business and whatnot. And as much as I loved that whole message, I couldn't really see myself doing either one of those things. Neither of them really appealed to me. And it wasn't until I was listening to one of the podcasts, and Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, his wife Kim came on the podcast and was answering the question, what's the best investment vehicle out there? And her answer was, the best investment vehicle is the one that excites you, because that's the only one that you'll actually put in the work to make it work for you. And she mentioned how one of her friends had tried to do real estate and couldn't really get into it, and then she started trading options and loved it, and became the successful options trader. And that was the first I had heard of options. I didn't know what an option was, but I decided to check it out. I went online, started reading up, and Matt, I remember the day that I came home and talked to my wife. The first day that I figured out what options were all about. And I was so excited because I knew, right away that this was something, that was for me, that this was something that excited me, that I could do, that I could be successful at. And so that's what kind of started me on my journey.
It's interesting. A couple of things. Let me jump in real quick there. Number one, Kim Kiyosaki is an amazing individual in her own right. And just listening to what she said in that capacity, I've always told, because I'm faced with this every week, Jeffrey. I'm out teaching events for Rich Dad Education and introducing the concepts of options and trading to them. And I have such a ball doing it. And a lot of times I will be in a room that has a lot of real estate investors, and they'll see the market for the first time. And they always come up to me and they always ask me, "Oh, Matt, why this market and not real estate? Because it seems so good in real estate." And I just always say, I love trading. It's just what I love doing. It doesn't mean real estate is bad. Yeah. It doesn't mean, any investment is good, right? If you love doing what you're doing. And so for me, kind of like what Kim said about that individual, is trading options. That's what kind of got me going. That's kind of what got you going as well. What was it about the options market when you first kind of heard about options? What was it about the options market that really kind of, grabbed your attention, being like, "Oh my goodness, I got to do this"?
The fact that, it was something that you could participate in, from home with your computer on your own time, that it didn't require, going out and, doing a lot of research. It was just, everything, you could just do everything, from your computer at home. I'm myself, I love anything I can do on the computer. If I have to pick up the phone to call somebody to get something done, it won't get done for 3 months. So put it off. And then but if I can just send an email or do something online, then boom, it's done. And so that was certainly part of it. And also just the the technical analysis of trading really appealed to me. When I was in school, I loved math. I loved calculus. I loved, just looking at graphs or looking at equations and trying to, think, construct them in my head and whatnot. And options has a lot of that same sort of thing. So it's just kind of this realization that, oh, hey, here's something I'm already good at and I enjoy, and I could actually get paid money to do it.
Exactly.
But really, as you say, it goes back to what you love, because before I really looked into it, I remembered thinking many years ago that day traders, who would want to do that? It's you're sitting in front of your computer all day staring at a screen. What's the difference between that and working, any other job? You're slaving away for hours and you don't have anything to show for it at the end of the day other than your money. I'd rather be doing something else, and have something to show for my time. And then I laugh when I think back to that, because now I love it. I absolutely love it.
When I'm up there talking about what day trading is, like, everybody always just assumes it's these people on crack that are sitting in front of the computer for 12 hours a day. They have a life expectancy of 3.5 years. They're a bunch of burnouts. It's just they just literally don't understand what it is. What I find, because every trader day trades. We might do other trades too, but we trade anything. And what day trading for me, and like me and Tim were on that event talking to people from around the world earlier today about Forex trading. And when we were talking about kind of what the Forex cycle is and day trading and news-based trades and go-to-bed trades, people are just amazed at what the reality is. But it's kind of like everything else in life. We get these assumptions about what things are that doesn't necessarily mean they're true. What I love about day trading is the fact that I can plug in to the entire world marketplace every single day. And it's not just sitting around, just hanging out by ourselves. That's what having a community is all about, sharing ideas. And I can probably say I have contacts and friends and associates in every part of the world because of what trading has become for me. And I just find that absolutely just amazing that, Jeffrey, I don't know if you know this, me and Tim just come from a very, very small community. Our town, Huntington, Utah, is a town of 2,000 people. And it's the same 2,000 people that have been here for the last 30 years. It's the same families. We did get a street light for the first time ever just 2 weeks ago. We did.
I saw that.
Yeah, and I'm excited and proud of that. But at the same time, that's really the only thing that's been new in our county for the better part of since I can remember. And I still live there right now. And so, in that environment, I see the people I've grew up with, and they're, still have the same friends, still do the same things, but I can come and plug into the market on a daily basis and communicate with the entire world. And I just find that so amazing that, in this community, we have people from Japan, from China, from India, from all over the Eurozone, Russia, Ukraine, Great Britain, Canada, South America, you name Africa. I have students in Africa that I can communicate with, and it's just so amazing every day to plug into that. It's something new every day. It's not like office space where you're sitting in a cubicle and you're basically, doing TSP reports. It's something radically new every single day, and it just keeps the blood moving and the mind working. It's just awesome.
Well, and you talk about, making assumptions about what something is or isn't. And, another one is, I think, people who haven't done this, when you first hear about, trading or, the stock market or whatever, you have this image of who a trader is. Right? It's somebody in a suit with, who's, going out and drinking martinis and has no soul, and I don't know what. But
where do we get that assumption though?
Yeah,
we get that assumption. Exactly. Gordon Gekko from Wall Street, Quaaludes and all that stuff. Yeah, that's where we get those assumptions.
you get into these communities and you realize that traders are just, they come from all walks of life, and they're just, they're other people just, trying to make their way through the world and doing what's fun and exciting for them. And, so it's this wonderful experience to meet all kinds of different people. And then I love also how that feeds into their trading, because, that's another, assumption I think people have about, the markets, is that, there must be a right way to trade the markets. And no, there are so many ways to trade the markets. And everybody brings their own unique approach and personality and, analysis. And so that's why I love, jumping on the Google groups and the forums and getting engaged in conversations about trading, because you can throw a chart up and ask 10 different people what they see, and you'll get 10 different answers and 10 different ways to play it. And there's no saying that it's not that one of those is right and the others are wrong. It's just
we do not discriminate against making money in any capacity on the Trading Justice podcast. If somebody wants to take a chart setup and say, I want to do some covered calls and generate 3% cash flow monthly, fantastic. If another one says they want to do a naked put and just cash flow positive SATA with 10% ROIs, great. If another one says I want to do a credit spread, bull put spread, fantastic. If another trader wants to say, hey, that's a good bullish retracement, let's go out there and hit a home run by buying a call option. You are so right. And not only that, but even people who are trading the same type of system, they can take a chart setup and just radically approach it differently, and they can all be successful in that. And there's enough money in the market for all of us to make money based on different styles of trading and everything. So when you were talking about your vision of kind of what you saw at traders and the misconceptions of it, I had the exact same thing when I came into this business. I was like, all right, Wall Street traders, hedge fund guys, all of this. But the reality over the last 10 years in meeting the tens of thousands of people I've taught how to trade, honestly, traders to me are farmers from Iowa. They're stay-at-home moms. They're the random individuals you would never expect in a million years. They're from every walk of life, every different demographic, income, intellectual capacity, you name it. You can learn how to successfully trade. And that's the thing that's really stood out to me over the years, is that regardless of where you come from, regardless of what your background is, you can learn how to successfully make money.
There's no question about that, Matt. And I want to pop in here for a second. I want to ask Jeffrey a question about some of the things that drive him, because, as I've gone and read the discussion forums that you've been in, much of it is you're interested in Congress and what they're doing, or you're interested in international politics between where Saudi Arabia has driven oil prices relative to what Russia, how that's going to impact Russia, or frackers in the U.S. Not everybody has that mindset, but you seem to have grabbed onto it. Is that something you've always been interested in, international relations, politics, the big picture stuff in this world?
No, it's something that has definitely grown and developed over the years, but it stems from something more fundamental, which is just that I've always been a curious person. You can interpret that how you will, but whenever I see something new, I immediately want to learn more. Whenever a question comes up, my first impulse is always to go online and pull up 3 different websites and get different opinions and delve into it and find out what's going on. And so some of that stuff, it's not even that I have a burning flame for international politics, but I just find it fascinating how everything interconnects.
Has that curiosity increased from the international perspective since you now become more aware of how it impacts price action across the global markets?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think you can can be seriously invested in the market and not at least be a little bit curious, or at least aware of what's happening globally, because you have to be. You talk about controlling your risk. Well, if you've got a position in oil or the S&P or gold or what have you, and there are international events that are happening that are going to affect the prices of those holdings. That's part of your risk management right there. So,
well, and Jeffrey, I was at a training in New York City recently, and one of the bigwigs from Rich Dad was there, and he comes up to me, great guy, comes up to me at the end of it. He goes, "Hey, Matt, I'm a little surprised at how much economics you talk about in your trainings." And I said to him, "How can you protect the things that you work so hard for, retirement accounts, your investments out there, if you're not aware of what's happening out there? It's impossible. You have to be aware of what's happening in the global market, because even though we're just simple people from our simple village called Huntington, Utah, it's a big world that is interconnected in every facet of it."
Well, and not only that, Matt, you're in the trenches with real people who need this information to change their life. Part of the passion that I see and pick up from you when you present, and I got to listen to that earlier today, is that you're talking and you're speaking to people that not only want to be there, but they need to be there. And many times, they need more income so they can hit their retirement goals, or they're facing down a job that they don't want to be at, or maybe they're even a young person that doesn't know what direction to go in this complicated world we live in. The student in my office today, her name is Sharon Ray, and she's in the other room, I think, listening to this podcast as we're producing it. And Sharon and I had a discussion earlier that, was fascinating, because she is tied to, education and college. And there's a lot of people at that age that are going through this college system that we have, and subjects like this are not being discussed or presented in the right way. A lot of these professors and people, and I'm not running the whole system down, because I had passionate and smart and intelligent professors, but you gotta step back. You gotta think. I mean, if they've got tenure and they're really just teaching the theory behind something, and they don't actually partake in the real live marketplace in a way, what do they really know about day-to-day economics? I mean, how much are they going to be paying attention to a jobs report on a Friday morning and how that impacts crude oil or whatever, right? And I don't want to run them down, believe me. I don't want to make it a negative about them. But I find it fascinating listening to you and Jeffrey talk about the need, even if you're at a base level, to get some of this information into your brain. You've got to at least know what it is. And if you're out there listening to the Trading Justice podcast and you're a new trader and you look at the economic calendar and it just gives you a headache, Jeff, I'll ask you first. What advice would you give that person?
Don't try to digest the entire calendar. Pick one event and focus on that one event and try to understand it. So jobs report. That's it comes out regularly. Right now, it's one of the big ones affecting the market. Our interest rate policy is dependent on unemployment numbers. Interest rate policy dictates where the amount of liquidity we have in the market, which is what's keeping our bull market on life support right now. So don't worry about the rest of it. Pull up that jobs report, watch that, read your analysis on it. Try to figure it out. Watch it month after month. Watch how the market reacts to the different numbers, and and really this is advice not just for the economic calendar, but for anything in trading. Don't feel like you got to try to absorb everything and master everything at once. Just take it one piece at a time, and just do that one thing. Concentrate on that one thing until you feel comfortable with it, and you stop having to think about it so hard, and it just becomes natural, becomes part of your routine, and that frees up the mental space. Okay, now pick the next thing you're going to learn about.
I think I just broke a record, by the way. Usually, if I'm silent for 4 seconds, Matt always pops in.
I knew you were doing that on purpose. I knew it for a fact. I knew what he was doing on that one, Jeffrey. And after 2 seconds, I'm like, he's going to push me. He's going to push me. And I'm more stubborn than he is. And by the way, producer Phil, edit that 3 seconds out so we only have a 1 second cut in there. So there you go, buddy.
I do got to tell Jeffrey something funny, though, is there was a podcast early on where I dropped a pretty big cuss word. And I have not done that since. And one of the reasons is Jeffrey sent me an email or maybe a Facebook message, I can't remember, about how he was on driving and he didn't, I don't think this was the intent, but how he was enjoying and loving the podcast and his kids were in the back and everything. And I just was thinking to myself, oh, I'm a father. I can't be cussing over the radio. And even if Jeffrey didn't intend it, his kids are in the back listening. I don't want them to have to hear that. So we've dropped the podcast down to PG-13 at worst. I think maybe just as a natural production. Right, Matt?
Well, Tim told a story about some high-fidelity scene, and he dropped the F-bomb there. I think he dropped the F-bomb one other time. It's a PG-13 podcast, though. That is, yes, it is absolutely a PG-13 podcast.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, I don't like to just cuss, to be honest. I don't mind cussing. I think, you got to use your cuss words sparingly. Like
you can't just drop an F-bomb. Like, right. But if the F-bomb is followed after a nice tangent on central banking policy, I think that works. Okay, I think that works perfectly fine. If you're talking about Janet Yellen, that works. If you're talking about Mario Draghi, that works. If you're talking about
we ought to talk about central banking and see how long it takes before Matt starts dropping the F-bombs.
We could go put us on a timer. Well, and before we get into central banking, though, I wanted to get your take, Jeffrey, because I read a post just maybe today or yesterday about oil. What's your take on the crude oil market?
So. Oil's been, heading steadily down for a while now, and everyone's trying to find the bottom. If there's going to be a bottom, I mean, it's a commodity, so obviously there will be a bottom somewhere, and there's a lot of people who'd like to catch it when it comes along, but it's obviously there's a lot of players. Everybody in the world needs oil, but I was just saying on the forums how, of course, one of the major players here is OPEC, and in no small part, this price action that we've been seeing is their reaction to American energy independence, and then in the wake of Russia's actions in Crimea and talking about trying to get European energy independence, and OPEC has been the world's supplier of oil for a long time, and that's their business model, and they don't want to see American shale companies flooding the markets with oil and losing their market share, so this is something that you can see in other retail sectors where if you've got somebody who's got a big share of the market there, that market share can be more important to them than profits, so by flooding the market with supply, they can drive down oil prices, and as prices fall, profit margins fall, for them as well as anybody else. But the shale oil production in the United States, is predicated on oil at $60-70 a barrel. That's where they're making their profits, is whatever they take home after that. It's a more expensive way of producing it, and of course they had to sink a lot of capital in to get that production going in the first place. And so by pushing prices down, and holding them down, it forces weak hands out of business. I believe OPEC will do that for as long as it takes until they're secure in their market share, and then once once enough competitors have been driven out of business, they can let the price slowly start to rise and start taking their profits some again.
Well, Jeffrey, I just did a video for Tackle Trading and on the market recap, and I talked about oil because you saw the same forum I did today, and there's a lot of, is this the right time to buy oil? We've had a nice little uptick on it, and I want to see if our takes, if we agree with one another. Mm-hmm. Do you see oil as a bottom right now, or do you see oil having more pressure and it continues to go down in the near future?
I continue to see oil going down in the near future. I mean, that's, I would say that on two levels. First of all, what I'm, what I understand about the international, economics of it. But, also from a technical standpoint, could this be a bottom? Yeah, maybe. But, generally we don't see, we don't see bottoms come into place that fast and just, tear right back up. So, this might be the beginning of a bottoming formation. But if it is a bottom, it could be forming over the course of several months. If I were looking to get in, I would much rather, wait, to see, more confirmation than, stake my claim right here.
I agree 100% with what you said. And basically what I said in the video was that not only is this not the bottom, it's going to go lower. And one of the reasons why you saw oil go up today is because the dollar is retracing back down, and commodities typically will go up in that environment. So I agree. I don't see oil being the bottom. And if it is the bottom, it doesn't happen in 2 days. Yeah. It happens in months. You never see something reverse automatically like that. There's too much pressure out there, and it's not like the underlying fundamental themes of the dollar have changed in the last 2 days, and it's not like the underlying themes of the crude oil market has changed in the last 2-3 days either. This is just what we call a retracement. And I even said just yesterday, if it gets into that $55 mark, which it kind of hit today, that's where I'd be looking to buy put options on it if we get confirmation.
Hey Matt, I wanted to do something here, and I'm going to bring in another special guest. Might as well. I was sitting here thinking, Jeff helps beginners. I've got a beginner in my office. She's a Tackle Trading Pro member. Why not introduce him? And Sharon can kind of join the conversation. I only got one mic, though, so Sharon, you don't have to get too close to the mic. Phil always yells at me for that. You take these headsets. Matt, say hello to Sharon Ray.
Sharon, how are you today?
Hi, Matt. Repeat your comment to me, please.
I just said, how are you? Did you ever envision that you would be on a 5-star rated financial podcast today?
Never had any idea, but I'll tell you what an experience this is. The mentorship with your brother Tim.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? And you're sitting there with your son, right?
Son, Douglas Getz.
Oh, we'll bring him on here in just 1 second. But Sharon, you're sitting down with Tim in Tim's office there in Salt Lake City, and I just want you to briefly talk about what this mentorship has meant for you and your son.
To be here in the presence of a 15-year trader, one who loves to help. It's mind-boggling. He gets so much reward out of giving, and so do you. And I've been a part of the trading labs. I've listened, the Forex classes that you're teaching. I couldn't have asked for anything more. And then he takes time and he reviews my trading business. So it's just a win-win situation all the way around.
That's awesome. I agree. It's a win-win situation. I do have another question for you. Did he shower today?
He must have, because there's no fragrance.
Okay. I just want to make sure. There are sometimes he can get a little dirty.
Well, I have a teenager. Remember,
okay.
19. You don't have to tell me.
So, well, you got to treat Tim that way sometimes too. All right, just keep that in mind.
Sounds like I'll be meeting you tomorrow,
a couple
so
things.
I'll make sure to get close enough to sniff.
Yeah, hey, Sharon, I'm not going to shower, and I'll give you a hug anyways. So, okay, totally kidding. Yeah. On the shower part, the hug, I'm a hugger. But you got I don't know why people shy about like physical contact. It's like, come on, that's one of the greatest things about being a person. What type of training are you focusing on?
I'm focusing on credit trades, naked puts, covered calls, possibly getting into iron condors. And the Forex blew our minds, both of us. It's the first introduction we've had. And the carry trades, we're itching now.
Well, think about it, Sharon. You've been a part of the program for a while now. You've taken a few classes. You're part of tackle trading. You're in labs. You're doing everything that needs to be done. But just think about your journey real quickly, just from where you were when you first kind of started, kind of like I was talking to Jeffrey about, and now look at you're talking about, hey, I'm doing credit spreads and I'm doing naked puts and I'm doing covered calls and I can't wait to do the carry trade and the go to bed trade and everything else that we talked about. And it's just, isn't it so fascinating how quickly you can get up to speed with trading when you have somebody like Tim as a mentor and a community like Tackle Trading?
Matt, I seem to be losing an awful lot of sleep now. I'll tell you, the excitement is affecting my sleeping.
That just means, all that means, Sharon, is you can trade the euro. That's it. That's all that means. Okay.
Yep, I've got the
That's
bug.
awesome. That's awesome. Before I bring your son on, Jeffrey, what is a couple as Sharon, who is in the middle of this mentorship with Tim? She's in day 2, I believe. And they started yesterday. They're finishing up tomorrow. What is some words of advice from a veteran like yourself, Jeffrey, that you could give Sharon as she not only finishes this mentorship but goes out to really kind of treat this as a business from now on?
So I would say, that it's very exciting to see all the possibilities, all the different kinds of trades and instruments you can do, and I think it's very important to have that exposure so that you realize what's possible. You can kind of explore, what makes sense to you. So you kind of have fun with it. Figure out what you like. But once you start to get a sense, of something that okay, this really works for me. Whether it's doing the carry trade or putting on iron condors, on the indices or what have you. Once you find something that clicks for you and makes sense for you. And seems to be working for you, I would say hone in on that. The other stuff will be there, but it's real easy, to get excited and want to try to do everything at once. But each setup, each instrument, each strategy, is worth taking the time to really develop, and practice until, again, it's like what I was saying to Matt and Tim earlier in the podcast, focus on it until it becomes automatic. Just, you're just making money with it, almost without having to think about it. You just every day you're getting in there, looking at the charts, doing your setups, putting your trades on, managing them.
I think you're saying a level of efficiency.
And then, exactly. And, then, pick the next thing you want to work on, rather than trying to,
Thank you, Jeffrey. You're very kind. You fit the profile of the mentors here at Tackle Trading, and
awesome.
Something that comes through very strong. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thanks very much. I love talking trading, as Matt and Tim do. I think it's
we enjoy it a little bit.
Podcasts,
Yeah, we enjoy it just a little bit, Thank you, Sharon, so much for coming on here. Sharon, I want to talk to your son real quick. Bring him on here.
We'll bring Douglas in.
Okay, we'll go get Douglas. Hold on.
Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Sharon. So Jeffrey Douglas is 19 years old, and I believe he's going to be starting in the Forex market while he comes on here. I've never met Douglas. I think I said hello to him yesterday, and that was just over the phone. And when you were 19, Jeffrey, what were you doing?
When I was 19, I was in college studying physics and music theory. And
music theory?
I didn't know. Yeah.
Nice. I was in college myself. I was studying political science and history. Is what I was doing.
I can see that.
That comes from my father. Love history, love politics. I actually did an internship, Jeffrey, in Washington D.C. In 2000. There was a congressman by the name of James Hansen, and I interned for him, which basically meant I answered his mail. Back then it wasn't emails, it was actually written mail. And we would answer the constituent letters, and I don't think he ever saw it one time. But it was a fascinating experience. You know what I wasn't doing, though? Trading Forex.
No.
I wasn't doing that. And I look at people like Douglas, who's, Sharon's son, and to think back, if I could have went back, and knowing what I know now, if I could have went back and I would have went to college because I loved college. I had a lot of fun in college, but law school specifically, and not went into $100,000 in debt to basically be told I'm not going to be a lawyer, and go back and just start my trading career at 19. I don't know what you paid on your education. I know what I paid on mine. I probably would have paid 10 times more if I could go back and do that. Just knowing what I know now, such a fascinating journey and experience. And you're 3 years into this journey. What is the 1 to 2 things that you have learned 3 years into this that have just absolutely blown your mind?
I think the first is how small the U.S. stock market is compared to some of the other markets out there. When I first started trading, I had never even heard of the currencies market or commodities markets. And so Wall Street and the Dow 30 just seemed like such huge pillars of the financial world, and so much money, and honestly, there are financial forces out there that dwarf them. So that
well, you think about that. I mean, the U.S. equities market is the one thing we all know, even if we don't trade it, right? We know what a stock is, for example, and we just think Wall Street is just massive, and it trades $200 billion every single day. And then you learn and you hear about the Forex market, and it's a $5 trillion daily industry. You hear about the bond market, which is a $700 billion daily industry. You think about the commodities market. These markets dwarf the equities markets. And the thing is that most people in retirement accounts, they're only long stock, long mutual funds in one of them in an equities market that is actually one of the smallest markets out there.
Yeah.
What was the other thing?
The other thing would be how little financial education the majority of people have, and I think it's especially I feel like it's almost criminal, particularly with the banking system. I think about how we're all taught that we're supposed to put our money in a bank. That's the responsible thing to do, and growing up, it's just kind of like. The way it's talked about, it's like, oh, banks are, the bank is my friend. They're there to help me out and do me a favor by taking care of my money. And, then when I actually got out and educated myself, I realized that's the last thing they're doing. They're not there to help you.
No, they don't care.
You're the one helping them.
No, they don't care about you in any capacity. You basically give them money so that they can leverage themselves 28-1. You know, I mean, that's all the banking industry is all about, and that's something that amazed me too. I do want to talk about something you just said, because that is very, very near and dear to my own kind of mindset and frustration. And let me ask you a couple questions. You said how basically illiterate the average American is at financial industry, right? And I agree with that 100%, by the way. But let's look at it from a systematic approach real quick. Is it the consumer's fault that they are so illiterate when it comes to financial industries, markets, global economies? Is that the consumer's fault?
So.
So I've struggled with this question myself.
There's certainly. We live in a country that values independence and independent thought, and so certainly you can take the position that it's every person's responsibility to educate themselves, and I think that's true, but you have to realize that education exists. You have to realize that there's something out there that you don't know that you need to know, and the problem is not that people are not willing to educate themselves. It's that most people don't even realize.
They don't even know. I think it's a systematic problem, to be honest with you. You look at
Matt.
Yeah, hold on. Let's finish this quick conversation real quick. You look at this as from a systematic approach. We don't teach. Like you just said, when we were growing up, we're taught, hey, go get a bank account, right? Go set up your bank account. Jeffrey, I even do it with my children. Hey, honey, you got a job, you got your first check. Let's go open you up a bank account. Let's get you. Let's start doing this. It's kind of just how we're kind of taught that way. I'm also teaching my kids how to trade and what money really is, but at the same time, that's kind of so ingrained into us. But we don't teach financial literacy anywhere. We don't teach it in public schools. We don't teach it at high school levels, at the college levels. We don't teach investments. We teach people how to be a slave to a job. That's what we teach people how to do. And so that's what most people are. They're a slave to the economic system. And who designs the economic systems? Government, Wall Street, central banks do. And so it goes back to me, and not to get too deep here, but to me, it goes back to Machiavellian politics. It goes back to Marxist thought of opium for the masses. You keep a populace ignorant, you can take advantage of them. And so I honestly see this more as a systematic problem than the blame of the consumers, because American consumers, although they are complacent, and Tim and Jeffrey, you can agree or disagree with this, although they are highly complacent today, okay, they have proven throughout history that when the bell rings, they will step up and do what is needed to survive, to thrive, to move forward, to dig the deeper a little, to harder, to really drive for success. And so I actually see it much, much more as a systematic issue than I see it as a consumer mindset issue.
I agree.
Tim, you there, buddy?
Actually, this is Douglas. I've been listening for. Yeah, how's it going?
Good. We were just saying a whole bunch of nasty things about you.
Yes, I've been listening. Trust me. I can't.
We're actually very envious and jealous. Jeffrey and I were just thinking back to when we first started our trading careers. Jeffrey started 3 years ago. I started when I was 27, and what I would have given to go back when I was 19 and sit in a room that you've been doing the last 2 days, and I just find that just absolutely awesome. You're 19. You come to this mentorship with Sharon, and you're sitting down learning about trading. What types of strategies have you really started looking at, saying, hey, that's what I want to trade?
Okay, well, to be honest, I've started on the path of financial freedom about 2 years ago. I picked up Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Awesome.
That was the summer after I graduated high school. And I originally had a plan of becoming an engineer, go get this high-paying job so I can buy all the things that I want. And I read that book, and I realized, wow, there's so many bigger paths that I can take, so many other really great money-making routes that don't involve me spending 40 hours a week making money for someone else. And so I found Rich Dad. They had a class right near right where I lived, and I got into a couple things. really was fascinated by the real estate possibilities. And I also looked into the stock market. I realized that there's so many ways in this world to make money that it's silly to just focus on one thing, silly to focus on just a job. You have so many things. And so that's why I'm thrilled to be out here with my mom in Salt Lake City learning about these stocks, because in the long run, I know I want to be an expert in stocks. I know I want to be an expert in real estate. I know I want to start a business or two. That's the path that I know that I want to take. So I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be learning things. Right now, my mom and I are going on Forex, learning about that, and learning options trades. So credit spreads, doing
Jeffrey,
things like that.
Jeffrey, real quick,
great.
Just listening to Douglas's the power in what he's talking about. He was 17. I didn't know this. You were 17 when you read Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my dad pushed it on me for a couple years, but then I finally got into it. I got a mini golf job. Listen to this. I got a mini golf job over the summer. And you know how every teen wants a job where they do absolutely nothing? Yeah, right. Well, I actually got that. It was great. I was on a mini golf course. I did absolutely nothing. I gave people their golf balls and their clubs, and then I sat back down. I realized I got to put this time to use. So I started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I got through that book. I got through Cash Flow Quadrant. And then I got halfway through Guide to Investing, the third book in the series, and it was talking about taking companies public. And I said, whoa, this is way too much for me. I'm way too early into this. I'm 17. This is a little over my head. But I realized that just doing that started me on the path that I'm on now, of wanting to learn many different routes of making money so I'm not tied to one thing. And I feel like that was a huge, huge benefit to me, because that just opened up my eyes to what's available out there. It's great, honestly.
You know, Douglas, you sound like a 20-year-old vet. Seriously, you got the mindset, you're learning the skill set. You know, Douglas, there's going to be ups and downs in investing, in trading. We all have them. But you know what? We grow, we learn, and that's why you have a community around you to help you kind of apply this over the next basically your lifetime. You know, we're individual investors. That's what we're called. There is absolutely nothing individual about what we do, Douglas. Nothing. We do things together. We help each other out. And that's why we love Jeffrey as part of the team, because Jeffrey, for 3 years now, new traders will have questions. They'll post it on the forum, and all of a sudden Jeffrey's going to go out there and he's going to write a 4-page dissertation on, just these simple questions. And that's why I love it.
And I have tons of questions coming into this too. There's no doubt that I'm an expert at all, for sure. There's tons of questions that I have, and there's tons of things that I need to learn. But I know it's a whole process and it's a journey, and
it is.
I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be there within 6 months, but I know years down the road, I'm going to be so happy that I took this route.
I agree. And the one piece of advice I'll give you, and then I'll let Jeffrey give you one piece of advice, then we'll bring Tim back on, is if you ever in a trade or you're studying a strategy, don't just sit there and stare at the screen. Reach out, get the help you need, post something on the forum, write something on Tackle Train Clubhouse. Reach out and get the help, because there are a ton of people like Jeffrey, like myself, like Tim, that are willing to take what we have learned and help you, push you down the right path. Because you know what, Douglas, we had those same people for us when we were, coming through this, maybe not at 19. I'm still jealous and envious of that. But at the same time, we had those people for us as well. What about you, Jeffrey? Last word of advice for Douglas, and we'll bring on Tim here.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm so
welcome to the
excited for your journey, and I think it's great you're doing that with your mom. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
And the one thing you said that really stuck with me was when you had that job where you had a lot of free time on your hands, is that you seized it. You made use of your time. You didn't just spend it on Facebook or whatever. And that is one of the big things that differentiates people who actually go somewhere with their education from people who do not, or who never get started on the path in the first place. So don't lose that. Keep hold of that. It's easy for us to sit here and go, oh wow, that's so great. You're 19, you got your whole life ahead of you. You've got all this time to do that, and it's great. But at the same time, again, don't get complacent about that. Use your time wisely, and I'm glad to hear that you've got kind of the long game mindset, because I think with my own journey with trading, it's certainly been the fact that it happens both more quickly and more slowly than you imagine. When you're sitting there trying to figure out how to do a trade or working on a particular system, sometimes it just feels like forever, until you figure it out or you start seeing results, and yet then at the same time you blink and you look back and you think about, where was I a year ago or 2 years ago, and you realize just how far
I've come a good
so,
distance from where I was. I'm happy about it, and I'm excited about the years to come. So, thank you guys for your advice. I'm going to turn it back over to Tim. But
Thanks, Douglas.
It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you coming on, brother.
See you.
All right, see you, Douglas.
Nice.
Impressive.
Don't you think?
Man.
Holy cow! Are you kidding me? Although he needs to study
young man.
his chess books, because I've beaten him like 4 times in a row.
Oh wait, hold on. See, you have to feel better about yourself by that, because your last mentor student handed you your ass constantly last week. You've been complaining about it for an entire week. So you pick on a 19-year-old kid who's probably never played chess just to make yourself feel better about yourself.
We're having fun.
Hey, here's a golf clap for you, Tim.
Okay, Matt. Listen, I'll play you in chess, and we'll make this like a double or nothing on that old bet we had on that Dolphin Bear game. Which, by the way, I never did pay up. I was supposed to sing on the podcast, but I'll play you in chess for a triple or nothing. So I'm out of that if I beat you, and if you lose, you got to sing, right?
You're better at chess than me. I want odds.
Another time.
All right, we'll figure it out. All right, Tim, the last thing I want to kind of talk about, and then we got to get ready for the coaches show coming up here very soon. Jeffrey, you started out your career trading options, okay? Mm-hmm. That's not what you do now. You day trade futures now, correct?
Correct.
Explain to the listeners out there exactly what the futures market is, number one.
So the futures market, used to be known as the commodities market. Is another name for it, because a lot of the issues that get traded on there are commodities, and basically it's it started as a way of hedging prices for people who dealt in commodities, whether that's airlines who need to buy oil to fly their planes, or farmers who need to sell their hogs at slaughter time or what have you, and a way of locking in prices to ward against the fluctuations of the market. That here I've put all this money into my business, and then when it comes time slaughter time for the hogs, or time to put those planes in the air, all of a sudden the price of pork bellies has changed, or the price of oil has changed, and all of a sudden I can't make a profit on what looked like a good investment. And so the futures market is basically trading contracts where people agree will buy or sell a contract to trade a certain commodity at a predetermined price, and that way everybody can kind of do their business knowing how much their money they're going to bring in, or how much it's going to cost them for certain commodities. And then over time that expanded to the equities market as well. So now you have futures on the stock indices and even on individual stocks.
Awesome. And in terms of you trading the futures market, though, specifically what instruments do you trade?
So I trade the E-mini Dow futures. So it's basically tracking the Dow Jones stock index, and it's a mini position, so it's not a full size position. So it's a way for me to trade the daily price movement of the Dow with quite a bit of leverage, so I don't have to put up a lot of capital. I don't have to sit here and put up thousands of dollars just to capture a few points of movement.
Mm-hmm. Good. And you say you day trade them, so you're in and out in the exact same day time frame.
That's correct. I'm usually, actually, my positions are pretty quick, so I'm usually in and out of a position, within 10 or 20 minutes.
Oh, nice. So you even do what some people would refer to as scalping sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. And how's that? Just let's talk this year so far. It's been an up and down year in the markets. Some days it's seemingly the world's ending, and other days everybody's wondering why the market's going up. But how's your results been so far this year?
So my results have been all right. It's day trading is still something that's fairly new for me. So I'm definitely still learning and building my confidence. But it is kind of the first thing where I've really met with some immediate success and been able to build on that success and really feel confident and feel like I'm approaching this in a professional way, controlling my risk, getting in to really high probability trades. And actually, it's funny because I never imagined initially that I would do day trading. When I first started with the Rich Dad education, I thought I was going to be swing trading options, and that's what I spent a lot of my time working on. But I'll tell you, one of the reasons I switched over to day trading, and one of the things I loved about it is simply because it gave me the opportunity to learn so much more quickly. Because the trades happen so fast, and you can be in and out of several positions a day. It just kind of accelerated the whole learning process for me, and so I quickly got to the point where I actually built a system, and then was able to refine my system and work on my on my setups, and then just getting the best fills, trailing my stops better, choosing better price targets, so it's really been a fun and rewarding market to trade.
That is absolutely awesome. Well, Jeffrey, I have appreciated you coming on the podcast and offering your words of advice and talking to us a little bit about your journey, the different styles of trading you were doing now. We're got to get ready for that nice little tackle trading coaches show coming up here in just a few different minutes. But once again, appreciate you coming on here.
Though.
Yeah,
I want to say something. I think it's really fascinating to listen to this conversation, and some of my favorite podcasts, Matt, are with people who are either on their way up or maybe have arrived, but at some point they're sharing their journey, just like you talked about. It doesn't matter whether it was the podcast with Steve Wong, who's a Hall of Fame student, or with Jake Pelly, who's a Hall of Fame student, or with Gino Poor talking about his journey, who now he's a tackle trading coach. I mean, everybody starts somewhere, and just listening to Jeffrey talk about his journey through that, and then arriving at day trading on the Dow futures and learning the intricacies of the intermarket analysis and how crude might affect this and that, but also being able to trade every day with confidence. It's really cool. And it makes me think of a guy who we're going to have on the podcast here soon, and one of our mentors, Matt Keith King. And Keith has a great journey. I think that, Jeff, when you listen to that, you're going to really like it. And he does a lot of the same thing you're talking about there. He trades a lot of the E-mini futures, and he's been around the markets for 35 years. So, we'll make sure to let you know when that's happening.
Yeah, in fact, I think that's next week. I think Keith's next week for the podcast. I think we have 2 coming out next week. We'll have 2 this week as well. But like you said, Tim, I think it is important for everybody to share their story for a variety of reasons. But more than anything, people learn from other people's experiences. And Jeffrey, there's people out there that will listen to this podcast that were in a very similar situation environment that you were in 3 years ago, and they will be inspired by your journey, and perhaps they will take upon the challenge for themselves to take more control over their financial future. And I believe, and this is something Rich Dad has ingrained into my mindset, I believe we as consumers in society, we have an obligation to help people, to give people a chance. And so I appreciate and thank you for coming on and sharing your journey. And we'll be back with more coming out next week with Keith and everything else. But Jeffrey, thank you very much
for having me on, guys.
Peace.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tim, I'm going to send us out. Unless you want.
Well, I mean, you want me to sing us out? Is that what you said?
No. Send us out.
I can sing, Matt. You know.
No, you can't.
I can sing better than Katy Perry can.
Did you see her on the halftime show?
I'll send you out on this. I'll actually send you out on this. One of my favorite players from the Super Bowl, and you and I talked about this the other day, and I ranted about this in some of my classes this week. I am so impressed by that young man, Julian Edelman. He's one of my favorite players to watch.
Yep.
And here's a young man who is the epitome of work ethic. He's got the odds stacked against him. Now, don't get me wrong. He's a world-class athlete. He's got quicks. He's really speedy, but the guy's 5'8". He played quarterback in college. I don't even know if he was drafted. If he was drafted really late. And here he is catching balls in the Super Bowl, leading his team for the last few years. He shows up to work early. He does his job great. This is the great thing about sports. I know we were in Super Bowl week this week, and not everybody loves sports, but you and I grew up around team sports, and examples like that and stories like that. It's why I don't pay attention to like the Sports Center headlines about some guy doing this and some guy doing that. I like the great stories in sports. I like to focus on positive stories like Julian Edelman or Tom Brady winning his 4th Super Bowl. I'm not a Patriot fan, but that game was amazing.
I thought the game was awesome. I thought Katy Perry was as awesome as the game itself. In fact, during halftime, Tim, I had my little baby girl cat sitting on my lap, and Moo Moo's sitting there, both of them big Katy Perry fans. And, man, we were fist pumping and singing Firework and just getting all fired up. We were probably as fired up during the halftime show as I was at any point during the game, because at the end of the game, I wasn't fired up. At the end of the game, my jaw dropped. And I could not believe what I just saw. And I don't want to jump on the bandwagon here. And we can talk about the podcast later. Not the podcast, but the Super Bowl later. I will just say this. I cannot believe that was the ending of the Super Bowl. I cannot believe that they didn't run it with Lynch first, beast mode. But I couldn't believe that cut on the ball by I think, what was his name?
Bryce something. Bryce Brown, is it? No, I don't know.
Something like that. But anyways, it was Butler. Butler cuts on the ball, and that cut should be shown to every prospect, little leaguer. It was the perfect cut on the ball. And out of all the negativity of Pete Carroll did this and they threw the pass, that is not getting enough credit. That cut on the ball was a historical, awesome cut on the ball, and picked it off and sealed the deal. And, the Seahawks acted like a bunch of thugs after, whatever. I'm not Patriots fans. I can't stand the Patriots, but I am very happy they won that game. They deserved it. And hopefully next year Miami beats them again.
We'll talk football another time. For the Trading Justice podcast, this is Tim, Matt, Douglas, Sharon, and our special guest today, Jeffrey Ludwig. And you guys, you can catch us out on iTunes. Go download the podcast, put it on an app, Podcruncher, whatever it is you're using on your smartphone. If you want to stream it through tackletrading.com, you can do that as well. Join us on the forums. Join us in the clubhouse. We like participation and discussion.
By the way, Tim, we did it for our pro members over there at Tackle Trading. You guys starting next week are going to have the Tackle 25 ETFs, the top ETFs that we trade from a long-term and some short-term perspective. So for those of you in retirement accounts, the ETFs can replace mutual funds. And so we're going to give our Tackle 25 because there's thousands and thousands of ETFs out there. So we're going to have that list that's updated on a weekly basis. We're also going to have the Tackle 25, which is our 25 best covered call long-term investment stocks to go along with the other list that the other reports we have in the scouting report, options report, Forex report. Oh, man, we do a lot of things for $99 a month, Tim.
97.
That other financial in 97, yes, I tried to overcharge them $2. That other financial institutions spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars monthly on for their subscribers. It is that amazing, guys. We're trying to build a empire over there, and we're just at the forefront of it.
Yeah, that's right. If you believe something, scream it from the rooftops. And I'll tell you, we'll see you guys down here next time. For those of you who have been listening, thank you, and get in the game.
You've been listening to the Trading Justice podcast. If you've enjoyed yourself and think that the conversations and topics we've covered are important, help spread the word. Give us your feedback. 5 stars on iTunes, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. The Trading Justice podcast is proudly sponsored by TackleTrading.com. Get off the sidelines and get in the game.